Welcome back to the Comfy Chairs, a podcast from 123 Limited. This is your host, Kate. In an era of layoffs and wild job markets, it's hard to feel like you have any control over your career. And while there is no magic spell to solve the challenges job seekers face, all workers really, there are mindsets and practices that can put you in the driver's seat. These include identifying your values and underlying purpose, being able to tell the story of your career and aspirations, and other actions that help you connect your personal needs to an organization's priorities. Joining me today is Jamie Chambron, Chief Coach at the Career Agility System, a career navigator who guides her clients through every step of career development and discovery, from resume writing to personal branding. Welcome, Jamie. Thank you for joining me in the Comfy Chairs. As I've shared, I like to let my guests have the pleasure of introducing themselves. So please.
You got it. So Jamie Chambron was in tech for over 20 years, and about 8 years ago, I started to go down a career coaching and resume writing path. And so now I help other professionals advance their careers or start their own businesses.
Wonderful. Wonderful. It's great to see people who are, in the fray on the front line take that step, not back, but sideways to help other people, and women in tech, especially.
Yes. Yes. I still have a passion for them.
Lots of work to do in that space. It's better than it was. And so today we're talking about owning our careers. And I always like to start with those foundations, the basics of what is it? What do we mean when we say it? So what does owning my career look like in your estimation, Jamie?
Yeah. So at least today, what owning a career is and should be is around not letting managers, companies, places dictate where you're going, what you're doing, but you being much more intentional on what you choose to do, where you do it, when it's time to move on to do something else. A lot of us now talk about portfolio careers, i.e., doing multiple things, maybe not at the same time, but having strengths and value that lets you quickly pivot to try something else that you can add value to. And the notion of, owning the career more so because there's less and less job security. And so knowing you've got to take control of what you learn, what you're going to invest in, and potentially even working for yourself, because a lot of, the whole gig economy is here and will continue to be here and grow.
Yeah. I've always thought that just about every aspect of employment is co-created, that the employer and the employee share responsibility. It's the way I think about engagement. And I also think in terms of career growth and development, you can't expect your employees to just know what they could be able to do in your company. And in the same way, I can't expect my employer to have a custom plan all for me. So you owe it to yourself. And I think you owe it to your employer, whether it's current or future, to have in mind, here's how I'm going to navigate. And it doesn't mean that you don't plug in. It doesn't mean you don't go along with, if you will, the plans that are in place at the company level, but recognizing that you are the person that's going to navigate that. No one else is coming for you. Is so important. And I'm not a huge fan of the generations discussion. I think there are some inherent problems. I'll spare you my opinions on that. I do think, though, that it is vital that we're teaching this mindset to people entering the workforce, regardless of how old, young, or other they are. Now, you've used the language align self to opportunity. One, I love it, but it's also how you talk about the process of managing an agile career. So what steps are involved in that process?
Yeah. So this is all around the other thing too that every person owns with their career is their personal brand.
Hmm.
Right? You own it, you own how to communicate it. And this is where it's a big skill. And I do a lot of talk on how to market and sell you. Like no matter where you are in your career, you've got to get comfortable marketing and selling yourself, be it young, internal, new. It's because it's going to be, a lot of people who look at why I'm getting overlooked for a promotion is because you're
Hmm.
not being visible and you're not taking the steps to communicate the value, the accomplishments, the things that you've done. And so with that in mind, as you look to grow and advance your career, you need to shift that personal brand, shift how you communicate what you do to align to what's that next step. And it might be, that promotion that you're looking for. Well, how can you demonstrate you're already delivering the value, the impact, you have the skills that next level is
Hmm.
going to demand of you.
Hmm.
It might be a shift to just a different role and responsibilities. You have to recast your skill set, what you've done, what you've accomplished, so it aligns to what that kind of manager would be looking for. You have to be clear and you have to do the translation. So the person on the other side, the company on the other side, isn't going to do the translation for you. You've got
Hmm.
to figure out how to translate what you do to align to what that next thing is that you want.
Yeah, I think that's such an important step for all the reasons that you talked about, and because it can help you discern whether or not the job may not be right for you, the opportunity, and especially in promotional situations where there's the attraction of more money, more responsibility, more visibility, whatever it is that floats your boat there. If it doesn't align, if you can't align yourself, if it's a contortion instead of an alignment, going through that process can help you identify that and then choose not to pursue whatever that is.
Right.
So I
Yeah, that's a
think,
good point. You may choose not to once you kind
hmm,
of better understand what is expected in that role.
yeah, exactly. I also think it'd be interesting. No, how do I want to say this? I think that the practices you're talking about cover the entire life cycle, that there's also an opportunity for people later in their careers who are leaving the workforce for retirement, for family, whatever the reason is, to not only think about, am I aligning myself, my values, my abilities to what's next when I leave, but also, am I leaving a legacy based on all that alignment that has come before?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to think about it as repurposing those mindsets and practices to help you as you leave the workforce as well.
Yep. Yep. And it's that and thinking about legacy, did you make where you came from better?
Hmm.
Did you show up? Did you be part of the community? Like, did you do the things? It's like the unwritten rules of how to truly be a member of an
Hmm.
organization to, you put in the effort, but you get out what you put in.
Hmm. I agree. I'm curious too. We're talking a lot about alignment and adapting. For some people, that can read as like changing yourself. So, how can someone stay true to themselves and remain authentic to their values, to their priorities in the midst of aligning self to opportunity?
Yeah, and it's just gonna, part of it is self-reflection. I
Hmm.
think a lot of us don't take the time to truly take a step back and reflect on what's important to them, your values, what you're looking. I like to say we all go through different stages of life, and at different stages, you have different needs, different values, different
Hmm.
um, things you have time for, and different priorities. So part of it is taking the time to reflect, and it might mean maybe, and I often recommend certain assessments to help you better
Hmm.
understand your strengths, better understand what you're leaning into, especially those who are going through.
Hmm.
potentially a career pivot or transition and not sure what's next. But you need insights, right? And which is going to be reflection. It might be coaching. It might be talking to colleagues or family, because you often forget and overlook what you're really good at, what you're known for
Yeah,
until you go back and ask. And a lot of times we don't. And performance reviews and feedback at work, I personally believe they're just superficial,
they
checking the
tend to
box.
be.
You're
Yeah.
not really getting raw, quality, constructive feedback.
Yeah, that is 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of
It's the
100.
manager checking the box.
Yeah, it is. So that can be a weak source of that reflection point. Now, you mentioned assessments. What are some of those that you recommend? I'm curious.
Yeah. So the one I always recommend is StrengthsFinder.
Always. Yeah, it's
That's
wonderful.
and it changes. People, if you even did it 5 years ago and you're getting ready to reflect on what's next, do it again.
Hmm.
What's going to bubble to the top is going to be different.
Yeah.
And it might be eye-opening. So I just had a client yesterday, um, did the assessment going through Pivot and looked at me going, I'm a little stunned that what I do day in and day out are my bottom five strengths. And I went, well, you're
Oh,
probably been in a place where you've been stuck and not realizing your potential because
yeah.
you've been doing the same career for 20 something years.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's a great one. DISC, if you're a leader trying to figure out what your leadership style is, that's another good one. High Five is a free version of StrengthsFinder. It's not as depth, it's not as good, but if you don't want to spend the $40 on the full assessment,
Hmm.
um, those are usually what come to mind as the ones I focus in on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think uh, sort of in line with there's a book that outlines, because that's what you get with the Clifton Strengths model.
Mm-hmm.
The 6 types of working genius
Right.
is another great one that is very focused on the workplace. Um, it gets a bad rap. I'm a fan of Myers-Briggs, the
Yeah.
type indicator tool, because it helps you process, this is how I like to orient myself to the world, and that can play a part too. So I like those as opportunities, and there are a lot of career assessments out there too that extend beyond school
Right.
children too. It can be the adult version of those. What do you want to be when you grow up? Types. I'll dig into my archive and add some extra ones into my show notes too, and I'll make
Okay.
certain I've got links to the ones that you've talked about there as well. Now,
Awesome.
do you have? I'm trying to remember. I apologize. Do you have a tool or assessment that you've created in your practice? Or do you tend to use those others and then help people um, digest them?
Yeah, so I've designed, depending on what I am working with someone on, is I've
Hmm.
designed the exercises that my clients will go through
Okay.
in terms of getting the insights that they need for where they're going next or recasting their story to for just actually sharpening the story so they're clearer on messaging and communicating their value. I have partnered with one firm that takes the Strength Finder assessment to another level
Oh yeah.
and does visualization and further overlays more data and insights on career possibilities, what to
Oh,
avoid, how to interview. And that's Strengthology Insights is who I work with there. And so my clients who are going through pivots, I will do a clarity assessment that'll combine strength finders with the platform to help them
that's
really
great.
understand career possibilities.
We talked about this a little bit already, but I like to dig in deeper because while the focus of talking about career ownership can seem like it's directed fully at job seekers, I think there are truisms about ownership and alignment that apply to anyone in the
Yes.
workforce. Again, you mentioned that you brought it up very organically, but I'm wondering what your thoughts are about how a highly tenured employee who maybe isn't looking to make a move, what are the lessons that they can still learn from this concept of alignment and insight?
Yeah, so someone who's maybe been in the same place for a while is just, again, taking a step back on as you go forward, what kind of value and impact you want to keep delivering in the place you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you're at a point where you should be mentoring more up and coming professionals, which I think we overlook that a lot now in corporate, at least, or in a lot of organizations in general, is we're not making the time to
Mm-hmm.
groom the next generation. Be it they're going to have different styles, different perspectives, different skill sets, but we're not taking the time to coach them on being a professional,
Mm-hmm.
being a great communicator, right? Those soft skills, being a role model for others. So I think those who've been in the workforce for a while, those who have been kind of that steady Eddie in a corporation should be thinking about, well, how can I continue to improve where I'm at,
Mm-hmm.
improve back to that legacy where, so many years left, maybe here, maybe elsewhere. How do I leave an impression and leave the employer that I've been loyal to and they've been loyal to me, which is rare
Yes.
nowadays, um to continue to be that loyal employee and just being of service to the organization and to the people in it.
Yeah. I do think it's, regardless of the type of work you do, the industry, the level, if you will, the type of education that you had to have, all of the factors that we sort of categorize jobs by, I think there are opportunities for people, even if they're quote unquote just working for a paycheck, to be able to look at, is this work that I can do to my best ability? Is this the job for me? And if it's not, how do I change the job or change myself?
Right.
If it's possible. And I
Yeah.
think that the self-knowledge, the awareness and knowledge that goes into being an employee, I don't know that we account for that enough in the modern workplace.
Well, I think we're go, 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 right? In the modern workplace, we're checking the boxes. Great job, pat on the back. You're in the motions, and there is no giving time to brainstorm or think,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're there to do the job. And that's what you're used to doing, is showing up every day to do that job versus thinking about, well, what else could I do?
Yeah.
Unless someone came to you to offer you something else to do, which unless you're out there self-promoting yourself, you're probably being overlooked.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the advice you would give someone who says, I'm not comfortable promoting myself?
Yeah. It's one of those, it's like the saying goes, everyone's a salesperson. Well, you need to get comfortable on selling yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just something that you've got to work on, practice, again, talk with family, talk with colleagues, but you've got to get to a place where you're willing to put yourself out there. You're willing to not be humble about all the things that you've done. Back to the reflection. I mean, you also got to figure out what have you done that someone would go, oh, wow, let's tell me more about the great things you've done. So again, I think we get complacent. I think we get to, where we're at. And then some people just get frustrated because they're not moving forward. And it's because they're not showcasing all the great things. They're not promoting themselves. They're not telling other people, and they're not expanding their network. So that's the other thing too, is we get complacent and forget about nurturing who we already know outside of where we're at, or even nurturing relationships inside of work. Again, it's the back to that we come to work, we do our thing, we have lunch with the few people we always have lunch with, and then we head home, or you're virtual now. So the whole getting out there and networking, like true networking and true nurturing people you've known for a while is I see it tons, especially since I came from tech and I still work with a lot of technologists, very overlooked.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought up being humble as a barrier. I've been rethinking humility a lot recently and realized this is a little bit like we don't give enough airtime to awareness across the board. I don't think we fully define humility. We kind of stop at just half of it, where we talk about not being prideful, right? They don't puff yourself up. I think genuine humility isn't just about I recognize my weaknesses. It's also I know what I'm good at. I know my strengths. I know my gifts and talents, my capabilities. And it's not that I brag about them, but I am honest with myself about them so I can be honest with others. And I think if you have a barrier sharing those, try to think of the person that loves you the best. How would they talk about it? And use their words.
Yeah.
And it just edit out the, hey, my mom says I'm great at. It's, well, here's what I've been told I'm really good at. I think it's a little baby step that people can take. And I know, despite being somebody who is 30 years in the workforce, I struggle with that too. So I think we need to acknowledge that it is hard.
Yes. Now, when I have times where I'm trying to figure out how I'm messaging what I do today, I often just look at my recommendations on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Because that will give me insights. And actually, there was a theme probably right before I left corporate of I'm very insightful. That's just what I do and who I am. It's just inherent in what I do. My most recent one that was interesting is what I do is a renaissance in figuring out people's brands.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
I did too.
It's also that example of you gave someone the tool to reflect on and recognize. I spend most of my time doing something that doesn't bring me joy, that doesn't tap into what I do best, and help them revive how they think about their career or what they're doing as well.
Yes.
Wonderful. What trends are you seeing? And let me get a little bit clearer about that, of what it is that your clients, the people that you work with, what they're stating they need out of work.
Still flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big one, especially for the corporations that are asking for people to come back. They still want flexibility in where they're wanting to be. They do want remote. A lot of it too now I'm seeing is people want to work in an organization that is looking to make a social impact.
Yeah.
Right. They want to be in a place that actually has meaning and purpose, not just make money, that they're doing some sort of good. I see that a lot in my clients and wanting those kinds of organizations to be at, even if it's not the company is product or service is socially good, but at least they've got some other values and they're involved in giving back to the community or sustainability, right? Any of the ESGs. So I see that more and more because I think people want more purpose and meaning to what they do day in and day out.
Well, we're talking about values at this point, and I think we should spend a little bit more time discussing how do you identify your values and how do you match values? Can you find, so maybe I don't work for a social justice organization, but I work for a company that says it values integrity. Where do I see that played out? And is it playing out in a way that fits with what I want and need as an employee and as a citizen too? Do you have any practices or tools that you use in discussing values with people?
Yeah, it's back to those exercises I've designed on or figuring out, based on where they've been, what values have they aligned with, what is of value today, and what's of value tomorrow in terms of, well, and if they were to pick the one main value that they're looking for, because it's going to be hard to align, I think, all your personal values to an organization's values, because it's just, there's a lot to unpack there. But what's the one non-negotiable? Like, is it
Mm-hmm.
creativity? Is it integrity? Is it innovation? Is it community service? Like, what is it that's your, if this is a determining factor too on what you want to do next, what's that one value that you want to look for? And part of it's going to just be, ideally companies that really live and breathe their values are on their website. Their value, the employees can talk about the values all day long. They don't have to be the head of HR. If they're living and breathing the values, they're getting reminded them at town halls, they're getting reminded them in corporate memos. So it's just easily doing your homework. And that's where too, when I work with someone who's looking for a new role, I have them go target organizations, not target job boards, because I want
Mm-hmm.
them to get themselves out there without there being a job open, because it's easier to land a role that isn't even open because you're basically becoming known before they even realize they need you.
Yeah, well, that's great advice. I think the question of values, it's what do I see? What are the observable things? And as part of that self-reflection and growing your self-knowledge, it's examining, well, I say I value X. How do I know that I do? What do I do that demonstrates I value kindness, for example, or compassion? How do people know? And if I'm not doing it, does it really matter to me? Do I need it in the job, in the workplace, if I'm not myself living it? Those are hard questions to address. What are some recommendations that you would have, Jamie, for people who maybe are getting tired because the self-reflection, even the research, as you look at jobs, career paths, opportunities, it takes a lot of stamina for people that may be lagging because of the energy spend. What do you recommend to them?
Yeah. So one is, you've got to block your time. And what I normally say is, if you're in a point of where you are trying to figure out what's next, block first time. Most people's energy is the beginning of the day. So before you go work for someone else,
Mm-hmm.
go spend 30 minutes on you, whatever you need to unravel to help you get those insights to move you forward to what's next. And then just, you've got to be sure you shelve it. So try not to have it leak into the weekend. You need days to rejuvenate. And, especially those of us who work for ourselves, we're often just kind of working into the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
And you then go, what did I just do? So like, you didn't take a break. So you've got to take breaks for yourself. And so don't let working on you wait for the weekend, because you will exhaust yourself. You've got to work on you during the times during the week when you work, and just now it's making you a priority. So instead of you starting your day for work, start your day on you, even if it requires you to wake up 30 minutes earlier to then jump in and then get to work, and then
Mm-hmm.
have the downtime on the weekends, because you will burn out if you don't have that downtime.
Yeah. I think the very starting place is to make certain that we all understand, whether you are job hunting or you are trying to grow and adapt for what you're doing now or what's next, this is hard work. It takes energy, it takes attention and focus. It takes being very intellectually honest with yourself sometimes. And humility, all the things that we've talked about to this point. And it may not happen overnight.
Yeah.
And that's not always an easy pill to swallow. So how are you caring for yourself, and how are you relying on, you mentioned your network earlier, the network of people that care for you to go
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I do prioritize things like I work out every day, right? So there's just
Hmm.
things I take care of. That's me first, me or family, right? So those
Yeah.
are the things that take priority. I do make an effort to get together with colleagues or friends and finding the right organizations where it's the right people I want to be surrounded by when I'm looking to
Hmm.
rebuild connections. But it's just being intentional during the week on where I put my energy, be it me and then the relationships that either I've built to now. And the other thing too, like don't get too spread out either on relationships. There's I forget who said it, but it's like you have time, you're the more most like the five people you hang out with the most.
Yeah.
Right.
I've heard that too.
Right. So if you're going through a pivot right now, one of the things you need to ask yourself is are you surrounding yourself with the right five people? And you might need to even pivot the people you're spending time with to get you to that next place.
Exactly. And we're not saying abandon your friends and
Right.
family. It's
No.
if I'm trying to learn how to do a thing, or I'm trying to become a better leader, fill in the blank. Am I watching? Am I around? Am I synthesizing, whether through osmosis or like direct mentorship, that skill, knowledge, or ability from somebody doing it?
Right.
And yeah, I think it's interesting to me to think that even owning your career is ultimately, in a lot of ways, not a solo sport, right?
Hmm.
That we are so dependent upon each other, even at work, even when it
Yeah.
comes to our professional lives.
Yeah.
And in my youth, that was horrifying for me to even consider. And now I think it's something that, frankly, should be a site like a source of delight for us, that other people can be part of that process. Yeah, we don't have to go
Absolutely.
alone.
No. No, you don't.
No. I want to backtrack to, you mentioned one of my favorite words and concepts earlier in our conversation, Jamie: storytelling. How do we tell the stories of what we do, what we've done, where we excel?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great question. So again, it's back to the where are you going next? Like what's going to resonate in your story? If you're mid to late career, your early days may not be relevant anymore, but more of the recent things, or if you've got a pattern of successes you've had, it's being able to tell your story in a way that isn't going to be overwhelming and
Mm-hmm.
getting to the key highlights again for what you're trying to accomplish at the end of the day. You're trying to prove to someone you're an innovator, or you're trying to prove to someone you're a turnaround person. Like, what is it that you want to be known for? And highlighting the right parts of your journey that's going to resonate with who
Mm-hmm.
you're talking to. It's not about just talking about you, it's about communicating what you do in a way that has the audience go, oh, interesting, you might be able to come in and solve my problems, or interesting, you might be able to do this for me. You got to share it in a way that it resonates with the audience that you're
Mm-hmm.
talking to. New boss, prospects, you name it.
I have I have an idea, and feel free to say, nah, I don't think that'll work. I'd be really curious if we could walk through an example, almost like a role play. If you could help me as, sort of a pretend person trying to learn how to do this, what are the sorts of questions to elicit those points? Um, what type of nudging do you provide? Is that something you'd
Yeah,
be open to?
yeah, yeah.
Excellent.
So the first thing is who are we talking to, right? So we got to
Yeah.
define the avatar, be it, and I like to say, if you're looking for a new role, what's that ideal boss look like to you?
Hmm.
What are, what
Okay.
are, what do they do? What are their goals? Because a lot of it when you're working for someone is how are you supporting them to achieve what they need?
Perfect.
So what keeps them up at night? What's in their
Hmm.
way? So knowing that, and if you're trying to start a business, well, what's your ideal prospect looking for?
Yeah.
Problems they have, pain points.
Exactly.
solutions they want. So again, step one is the audience. Who are we talking to?
Yeah. Well, let's pretend I'm a leader who's looking to take a transfer to promote and work for a different executive in the organization whom I admire. Maybe I haven't worked a lot with them, but I like the looks of everything that's happening in their division. Is there any research or questions I should be asking to be able to better define my audience?
Yeah, so it's understanding that person's functional area and what are they tasked? Like, what's their strategy, their strategic goals right now, and how do you align to that? How
Okay.
can you enable them to get to those goals, get to them faster, right? That's where and where from what you where you sit in the organization, do you see gaps in the
Mm,
current team to go, I can help and assist in these three areas. And then
okay.
here's proof of where I've done something similar before.
Okay. So let's say I'm watching this executive and her team and I think they're doing great things. I really think I can add to it. I can help them, do it faster, do it for less money. But I'm not entirely certain what proof I have. What should I ask myself about that type of, I think this is what they need, but I'm not entirely certain if I bring it to the table.
Yeah, so if you just got to start thinking about if it's saving money,
Mm-hmm.
where have you saved money in your
Okay.
career, right? If it's accelerating getting something done, where have you accelerated something? If it's opening up new market opportunity, where have you done that? So just asking that question of they need someone to cut costs. Well, just look at where have you, if anywhere, cut costs in terms of like reducing overhead, reducing tech spend, like where have you done something similar, even though it might not be exact? You got to think of the overarching problem at a high level to go, I've done that somewhere probably two or three times. Just it's not exactly the same problem I've been up
Mm-hmm.
against.
Yeah. So let's say I identify that I managed to reduce spend on 3 past projects, and I've got my little, here's my evidence of my capability. I see that they may have a need for that. How do I approach that person
Yeah.
to be able to say, hey, I see this is what's happening on your team from where I sit. I'm curious if this might be a gap. Here's what I think I can offer.
Yeah. Well, so if you haven't really, if you admire them from afar and
Mm-hmm.
haven't really visited with them before, I think the first step to do before you even pitch a solution to a problem, you're not even sure if there's a problem yet, is having kind of what I call informational interview.
Yeah.
Getting to see if they'd be willing to have coffee. Be like, hey, I've, admired the work that you've been doing. I'm looking for some feedback and guidance. I'm looking to continue to grow my career. I'd love to understand how you got to where you are. And the key at this point in building the relationship is it's all about them. It's all about you asking questions and letting them talk about themselves and
Mm-hmm.
not unless they have ask you about like what you're looking for, how you can come help me, that would be the follow-up meeting. It's like, hey, this is great. Been doing some reflection on, learning more about you and your group. I wanted to maybe position a business case or a way I could help your team, but I would do that as the second, not as the first kind of get to know them meeting.
Yeah. I hear you talking about how that initial relationship building, the networking, the nurturing of relationships is sort of an always thing, whether you're internal or external. You said don't look at job boards, look at companies. It's can I find someone with whom I can talk and have a better understanding of what the problems and needs are, where I want to go. Yeah. And that kind of becomes then a checklist of, well, here's what I have. Am I aligned with that?
Yep. Yep.
Wonderful.
The values checklist, the who's
Hmm.
leading the organization today, are they people I admire? All kinds of things you can be looking at to whittle down even just a 10 organization list to start with.
Great. Now let's go from talking to the employee, the person looking to do something with their career, to talking to leaders. Uh, as we've stated a few times, there are some of the practices that don't get the attention that, at least in our opinion, they should, whether it's awareness or even talking about who owns what when it comes to career growth and development. What are some simple steps or practices that people leaders can follow to coach and equip their employees to be owners of their own careers?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great question. Um, I think it is the being the role model of being an empowering leader.
Okay.
Um, being a role model of I'm not going to give you a development plan if that's what you need. You need to create it. So,
Mm,
because I think a lot of people go into organizations expecting these career paths and ladders and levels and da 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 da, and that just doesn't. They might be there from an HR perspective, but no one's giving you the playbook of how do I go from intern to senior VP. There is
mm,
no playbook,
mm,
right? Right. So it's communicating with their teams that they need to be in control of what they're, besides their, they have they're hired for a certain job and responsibility, but for what they want out of it, right? They got to show up. They've got to be proactive on what they want to do next. They need to be proactive in talking with me as the leader on where they perceive their gaps are, because the leader isn't going to be there all the time to
mm-hmm.
see where they're struggling, right? And you might be leaning on peers, so it's fostering that open door where your people can come talk to you when they need more help, they need more guidance.
Yeah. I think what I would add, and maybe tweak a little bit, if I may, Jamie, is that I think leaders need to be very intentionally having the conversations with their employees beyond being role models of awareness and self growth, it's like self development, is having intentional conversations where you're very clear with your employee that, hey, Kate, your growth and your career matter to me. We are partners, but you are the majority partner. I will support, guide, redirect as needed. I will work with you to achieve what you're trying to accomplish in your career. But ultimately, you are the owner. I will not do for you. And I don't say that to be like harsh or cruel. It's you own it, and I'm here as your support. Most of my focus is going to be on outcomes and performance, but that doesn't mean growth isn't important. I think there has to be explicit conversation about that, and making certain that everything you're talking about in that space is clear, particularly to people who are just entering the workforce.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
There.
that's a huge, I think for a young professional coming out of college, that's a huge leap.
Mm-hmm, it is. It is. And I think that's why the conversations have to be so explicit.
Mm-hmm. Especially at that level.
Yeah. And role modeling is wildly important. I don't want to diminish that, but I'm also, and this may not be a popular learning and development perspective, I don't think everyone needs a development plan.
No. Oh, absolutely not.
I've heard some people, typically, no, I won't say that. Never mind. I've heard some people say that every employee should have a development plan, and I think that is wrong. I think some people need engagement plans. I think some people need like exposure plans. Some people need improvement plans. Some people need no plan because of where they are in that moment. But the plan is not the thing. The real work is the ongoing conversation about what is the work that we're trying to accomplish, how are you progressing on current goals, and what's next, whether that's the next assignment or the next job.
Yep. And that's just showing up, raising your hand, putting yourself out there.
Yeah. And again, it's that partnership where the majority partner in career growth is the employee, the kind of the subject of it, and the majority partner in terms of the work is the leader. But you bring those together to make a whole.
Yep.
I realize the math doesn't add up, but that's the goal there. And it's all part of being in the workforce.
Yep. Agreed.
So Jamie, I like the name of your company, Career Agility System, your practice. Why agility and not growth or employment?
Yeah. So when I was considering the name, gosh, 9 years ago at this point, because close to nine, if not more than that, I recognized it's our careers aren't necessarily about grow, 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 advance, 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 advance. I started seeing there's no ladder, maybe a lattice. We like to talk about a lattice and a network and moving laterally.
Yeah.
Or completely doing 180s. And because I had been through, and I was young to face my first layoff because of a bankruptcy, part of the agility was, and the point was being ready at the drop of a pin that you could go do something else, that you had the tools, you had the marketing plan, your messaging, you knew if your job went away today, you knew how to find something else to make a living today. You weren't going to wait. You're going to be ready to move. And I was intentional because the majority of people don't think like that. Majority of people aren't. And now more and more, as you hear about what are the key skills going into the future, agility is one of them. Well, that's a skill, but that isn't, but you need that to also be a mindset in how you treat your career.
Yeah. Processing that, I like it. And there's so many stories these days about layoffs, and even the return to the office mandates can inadvertently lay people off who can't make that change or a move. It's really poignant to think that part of preparing people for the workforce these days is preparing them to be ready to change when changes happen that they don't control. Which makes me think, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, that talking to people about owning their careers in a volatile market may not seem right to some folks. I personally think it's the solution. But how can we help people understand that owning your own career, aligning yourself to the opportunity, is the way to future-proof your work life?
That's it. You've got to be, and I said this online recently too, is you have to look at your career like your investments, even if you're young, starting off in investments, and you're not going to put all your money in one stock, right? You're going to put your money in a pretty diverse, even if you're just starting out and doing it on your own, you're going to pick maybe 5 to 10 stocks or ETFs or things. Eventually, maybe you hire someone to do all that for you. But anyway, you have to treat your career as an investment in you, and you can't put all your investment in you into one thing. You've got to be thinking about what are the different things that I am talented at that people will pay me for. And it may not be in a full-time job. Maybe I do that because, I'm also a good voiceover artist and I get side things doing that, right? Right. So it's you've got to figure out all the things you're good at and what can you nurture and harvest within yourself as
Mm,
part of your career, that career portfolio. But it's an investment. You're your own broker and advisor to what you're putting into that portfolio.
love that language. Nurture and harvest within yourself.
Hmm.
That is,
No one's going to do that. You might have a really great mentor, you might have a great boss that's going to do some of that nurturing, but you're the one that's going to have to bring it
mhm.
to fruition.
This is one of those circumstances that manages to be both very heavy in terms of the responsibility and the effort while being simultaneously wildly freeing. That it is a big heavy thing to decide I'm going to own my career, be the master of my own ship. Insert rousing metaphor there. And it means that you are holding on to choice and creating a path for yourself. It's self-leadership in some ways, but it also allows for self-expression that we don't always get in some workplaces. And I think what I would ask you at the end is what are some final thoughts that you have to share?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is if you today don't clearly understand the value you're bringing to whoever you're working for, wherever you're at in your career, take some time to figure that out. Don't wait to all of a sudden be looking for a job. Go
Mm,
reflect on, again, back to the like, have you saved money? Is there a certain kind of progress? Are you an innovator? Have you brought new products to market? Or are you good at building relationships? Like, what is it that you're good at that you could not necessarily have to quantify, but it's a value, a result, it's an
mm-hmm,
outcome. So I think that's number one. And then being able to know how to succinctly share that in an intro. So getting out there and networking and, think about how when you introduce yourself, what's that one liner to make
mm-hmm.
someone go, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe I want to learn more about you.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. And then the sooner you can be thinking about what is in your control in your career, taking ownership of it, thinking about it more as an investment, thinking about it as, it's going to be multifaceted. Where you are today, it's going to be, different stages is going to come your way sometime in the future. So, and be prepared for the unexpected.
Mm, yeah. That's great. Perfect. Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome. It was
Uh,
great to be on the show today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated your time and the chance to talk about something that's oddly a little bit more practical and pragmatic than some of the conversations I have. So thank you for that
You got it.
too. It's nice to think this way instead of those ways occasionally. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you for joining me today. If this conversation sparked something useful, please follow the Comfy Chairs and leave a review. Those small actions help more people find the show. Got a leadership question you'd like featured in a future Comfy HQ episode? Please send it my way. I'd love to hear what's on your mind. And when you're ready to move from ideas into action, 123 Limited helps leaders build stronger teams, sharper strategies, and better talent plans. Learn more at 123limited.com. That's ONE23LTD.com. Thanks for listening.